Let's talk about rendering. So rendering is the process of generating an image from a model by means of computer software. In our case, it would obviously be Cinema 4D. Also, the results of such a model can be called rendering. A scene file contains objects in a strictly defined language or data source. It would contain geometry, viewport, texture, lighting, and shading information as a description of the virtual scene. The data in the scene is then passed to a rendering program to be processed and output to a digital image or raster graphic image. So simply put, rendering is the very last step in getting your models out of Cinema 4D. Let's just come up here and take a look at some of the render settings. So if we click on here, we've got our render settings dialog box. Now you'll notice that you have multiple renderers depending on the version of Cinema that you have. So you have the standard renderer, the physical renderer, software, hardware, and Cineman. For this title, we're going to be looking specifically at the standard renderer. We have some of our output settings. So here we have presets that we can go to. So whether we're working in screen, web, film, video, print landscape. Just come in here and choose some of these and it'll automatically fill in all the information in these areas. So let's just come over here, grab a film and video and come down here to HD 1080. And you'll notice that very quickly a lot of this information was filled in based on the preset that we chose. So you've got your width and height. You can lock this ratio. So if I do that and I change this number, the other number is going to update automatically. Your resolution in pixels per inch. You can also choose pixels per centimeter. We have our film aspect ratio and our pixel aspect ratio down here. We also have our frame rate. So if you wanted to change that to something like 24, you could make that adjustment there. The frame range. Are we rendering all frames or the current frame? Or do we want to do a preview range? So you have these options here. You have the fields, and this is not something you're going to use as much as you would have just a few years ago, but you have your even or odd fields. So depending on the kind of camera one used to shoot with would depend on whether you were doing even or odd fields first. But for what we're going to be doing here, you can just keep this to none. We come on over to save. This is where we can give an output path to where we're going to save our files. Multipass, if you turn this on, then you're going to have a multipass output as well. So if I turn that back off, that goes away. We'll talk a little bit more about multipass in another movie. We have anti-aliasing, and you can choose different varieties or flavors of anti-aliasing. So best anti-aliasing is generally going to give you a better result than none. And this really comes into play when you have things like reflections. You really want to kick up your anti-aliasing in order to get the reflections to look proper. If we go on down, we have stereoscopic. If you're going to be rendering for 3D, you can take advantage of that here. Team renderer. This is something new. It's very nice. So if you have multiple computers on your Wi-Fi network, you can take advantage of the team renderer, and it will use the processing power from all of the ones on your network to help render, which is really nice. Over here you have effects. So if I put an effect in here, like ambient occlusion, then ambient occlusion is over here, and I have parameters that I can adjust there. Okay, so that is the basics of the render settings here in Cinema 4D.